All right, Honors Algebra 2 and Algebra 2, welcome to 6164 game plan video number 1 here. You guys have the first 10 pages, and then after that, it gets a little different. So this video might be the first 10 pages. We'll see. So here's the warm-up, folks. Again, this is nothing new. You're just going to combine like terms. As you see here, to get 8x squared plus 11x plus 4, 3x squared plus 5x squared, 4x plus 7x, negative 7 plus 11, combine like terms. Here, be careful, you're subtracting, so x squared minus a negative 3x squared is 4x squared. Negative 8x minus a negative 9x is negative 8x plus 9x, and 13 minus 11 is 2. Literally, first outer inner last. All right, that shouldn't need much explanation. And then number 4, again, from game plan 5-5 to 5-8, 2 terms by 3 terms is going to give you 6 terms, which will simplify. All right, so again, this is all notes, which is why I would do all of page 1. F plus g of x is equal to f of x plus g of x, as you see right up there. So if I have f plus g of x, given f of x and g of x, I want you to add those 2 functions together, as I did there in 1. I would use parentheses around the second function there. So when you have g of x plus h of x, you have g of x, which is 3x squared minus 10x minus 5, and then add that to h of x. All right. Number 3, I had written that incorrectly. F of x plus g of x. All right, again, just combine like terms. You definitely need parentheses on number 4, f of x minus g of x. It's essential that you put parentheses around g of x. If not, you will subtract 10x. Instead of when you subtract a negative 10x, you'll actually be adding 10x, and you'll subtract 5 instead of 7 minus a negative 5 is 7 plus 5, 12. And, folks, I don't know if you've caught this, but I made a boo-boo. X squared minus 3x squared. I got in the whole subtract the negative deal. We're not subtracting negative. We're just subtraction. 1 minus 3 is a negative 2. All right, so again, got to have parentheses around that. I see this type of error in calculus still too much. So g of x minus h of x, everything in h of x has a parenthesis around it. 3 minus a negative 5, that is 8x squared. Negative 10 minus 7 is minus 17. Negative 5 minus a negative 11 is a positive 6. And we continue to have notes. So f times g of x is f of x times g of x. And then f divided by g of x, as you guessed it, f of x over g of x. So when I have f of x times g of x, that's the same thing. It means here I take f of x multiplied by g of x, first outer inner last. On 8s, I have g of x times h of x. All right, there's g of x. X plus 3 is h of x, first outer inner last. Be the same thing on 9. Okay, so I did say, I think I mentioned I was going to do all of them, but I'm going to do most of all of them. I don't have enough room. 10, it is simply f of x divided by g of x. There's f of x. There's g of x. Now, in Honors Algebra 2, we show that the denominator can't be 0, right? We say, hey, what is x not allowed to be? But here, x squared equals negative 9 over 2 is imaginary in its solution. So there is no real number that will make the denominator 0. Algebra 2, you can just stop. So we can just stop here. Again, we have g of x over h of x. We're going to take more math. We want to show that if the denominator is 0, that's when x is negative 3. So x is not allowed to be negative 3. It can be anything but negative 3. Because if x is negative 3, then you have something that's undefined. It would be the same thing here in 12. Again, we want to just get in the habit of knowing more about its domain. X can be anything but negative 3. It's not allowed to be negative 3. All right, then here, page 2, 3 times I write what f of x is, minus 4 times I write what g of x is, and then I just do that algebra. All right, just distribute. I'm going to pause that. 14, 5 times f of x plus 3 times g of x. Then I just distribute. If I made a boo-boo, let me know in class if there is an arithmetic error. All right, so page 3 is the hashtag game time section here. I want f of x plus g of x. I write f of x plus, again, I'm going to put parentheses around that second function no matter what. Then I do the combining of like terms. Let's take a look at number 6. H of x minus g of x. I'm subtracting all of g of x. I'm subtracting a negative x squared. I'm subtracting a negative 2x, and I'm subtracting 5 from 2x plus 7. And we're good, because this didn't have an x squared term, and I'm subtracting a negative x squared, which is a positive x squared. Thought I made a boo-boo again. 7, you have g of x times h of x. So you have 3 terms times 2 terms. You're going to get 6 terms, which you'll simplify. Take your time simplifying. All right, and then 12. 3 times f of x plus 4 times h of x. All right. Here we are on notes again. So on the warm-up, which we would have done in class, evaluate f of 2, plug 2 in for x, there and there. So that's all I'm doing. Again, this is pretty much from chapter 1, evaluating a function. Plug negative 1 in for x, order of operations. Plug negative 4 in for x, order of operations. Square the number first. When you square a negative, it's always a positive. We got to definitely want to not have that error anymore. All right. Now we're doing composition of functions. Okay, so when I say f of g of negative 1, you might see that. It could also be fog, f of g of negative 1. All of those mean the same thing. You might see it this way written a lot on the ACT. What I do first is I evaluate what is g of negative 1. So I plug negative 1 in for x right there. 8 times negative 1 plus 3 is a negative 5. That's kind of like the score at halftime. Then I plug negative 5 into the outer function. So I figure out what is f of negative 5. So now I plug negative 5 in for x right there and right there. And that's how I get 60. So the answer to my second evaluation is the final answer. All right. Normally don't have too much issue here. Again, number 2, f of 2, I do that first. So in f of x, I plug 2 in there and there. I get negative 10. And I take that negative 10 and I plug it into the outer function, g of negative 10. Plug negative 10 in for x right there. Get negative 77. And we just keep going. I find g of 2 first. G of 2, it's 8 times 2 plus 3. Get 19. Then I take that 19 and plug it in the outer function, which is f. F of 19. I got to square 19 minus 7 times what I plug in for x, which is 19. Number 4, again, I always evaluate that inner function. I find out what f of negative 3 is. So x squared minus 7x, I plug negative 3 in for x. In those 2 locations, then I take that 30 and I plug it into the outer function. G of x was 8x plus 3, so I plug 30 in for x. G of 0, 8 times 0 plus 3 is 3. Then I plug it into the outer function, which is f, 3 squared minus 7 times 3. All right, all things we would have done in class. Now, page 5, on your own, I do a lot of these for you, though. Given f of x is x squared plus 9. G of x is 7 minus 3x. Let's see what we got. G of negative 2. 7 minus 3 times what I'm plugging in for x, that's 13. Plug it into the outer function, f of 13. 13 squared plus 9. Again, this is the score at the end of halftime. This is a score at the end of the game. This is the one that matters. F of 1. I figure out what f of 1 is. It's 10. Then I figure out what g of 10 is. 7 minus 3 times 10. Number 9, g of 0. G of 0 is 7. And what's f of 7? Take a look at 13. Whoa, f of 1. What? Well, figure out what f of 1 is. F of 1 is 10. Then I take that 10 and I plug it back into f. So f of 10, no big deal. F of 10 is now 10 squared plus 9. Take care of each evaluation on its own. So again, g of 3. What's g of 3? It's a negative 2. Then I take that negative 2 and I plug it back into g of x. So g of negative 2 is 7 minus 3 times negative 2, 13. Speaking of g of negative 2, here we go. On to 16, g of negative 2. We just found out that was 13. Then I plug that 13 back into g of x. All right. So let's take a look at this next page, which is notes. Okay, this one's a little different. We still have a composition of two functions. Now I have f of g of x. What? Instead of a number, there's an x there. Well, here's what I know. I know g of x is 2x plus 1. So instead of substituting a single number in for x right there, I will substitute 2x plus 1, that expression. All right, so it's going to be 5 times what I'm plugging in for x. Instead of a number, I'm plugging in 2x plus 1. And then I finish the equation, minus 3. 5 times what I'm plugging in for x, minus 3. So my answer is not going to be a number. It's going to be an expression, 10x plus 2. So number 2, g of f of x. Well, I know f of x is this. And I'm going to plug 5x minus 3 in for x right there. So 2 times what I'm plugging in for x plus 1. And I'm left with 10x minus 5. All right, number 3, f of x. Well, f of x is 5x minus 3. Again, I'm plugging 5x minus 3 in for x right there. So it's going to be 5 times 5x minus 3, minus 3. 5 times what I'm plugging in for x, minus 3. It'll simplify to be that. All right. G of x. So g of x is 2x plus 1. So it's going to be 2 times what I'm plugging in for x, plus 1. Just left with an expression as your answer. So on your own here, f of h of x is x squared plus 6. So I'm going to plug in x squared plus 6 in for x right there. 2 times x squared plus 6 minus 5. G of h of x. All right. I'm going to plug x squared plus 6, because that's what h of x is, in for x right there. G of f of x. I'm going to plug, because f of x is 2x minus 5, plug 2x minus 5 in for x right there. So 5 times what I'm plugging in for x, plus 1. Okay. And we're rolling. The hashtag game time part here, page 7, given those three. Again, you guys can see on your page, f of x, g of x, h of x. H of f of negative 3, figure out what f of negative 3 is. It's 0. Then plug 0 in for x and h of x. H of x is 4x minus 5. So 4 times 0 minus 5 is a negative 5. Number 6. G of negative 4, 3 times what I'm plugging in for x, plus 11. I get negative 1. And I plug negative 1 in for h. H of negative 1 is 4 times what I'm plugging in for x, which is a negative 1 minus 5. And I get negative 9. F of 0. All right, figure out what f of 0 is. Not f of 0, f of 4. F of x is x squared minus 9, so 4 squared minus 9 is 7. I'm going to take that, plug it in for x. Again, in f of x. So 7 squared minus 9. It's 40. 8. H of x squared minus 9, because that's f of x. Again, h of x is 4x minus 5. So it's going to be 4 times what I'm plugged in for x minus 5. Distributes, I'm left with x squared minus 41. g of h of x. What am I plugging in for x again? 4x minus 5. So 3 times 4x minus 5 plus 11. 12x minus 4. All right, so section 6.2, 6.1 is a big one. Section 6.2 on the quicker side here, but also important first. So all of us have pages 8, 9, and 10. Section 6.2, let f of x equal 2x minus 4 and g of x equal x plus 4 over 2. Find f of g of x. So again, g of x is x plus 4. So I'm going to plug that in for x right there. So it's going to be 2 times what I'm plugging in for x minus 4. The 2's will cancel, leaving me with x plus 4 minus 4, which is x. G of f of x. F of x is this. I'm going to plug that in for x right there. So that's in green. 2x minus 4. Then I'm adding 4. Then I'm dividing by 2. 2x over 2 is x. Whoa, notice how f of g of x and g of f of x were both equal to x. That's because they're inverses of each other. Write that down. That's what we wrote down in class. F of x and g of x are inverse functions. All right, so as you guys learned in geometry last year, when you reflect points across the line, y equals x, that's what you did. You made a reflection across the line, y equals x, and that's what inverse functions do. They are reflections across the line, y equals x. That's what we saw on Desmos in class. So to find the inverse of each function, you're going to switch x and y. The x's and the y's switch. Point-wise, that's what happens in geometry. And they're going to solve for y. First off, you see a lot of f of x equals, f of x equals. Remember, f of x is the same thing as y. Okay, y equals is the same thing as saying the function in terms of x equals. So y equals 3x minus 7. This y will become x. This x becomes y. X and y switched places. Now I need to solve for this y. So I add 7 to both sides. And then I'm going to divide by 3. X plus 7 divided by 3. Now notice in my original equation there was no mention of y. It was f of x. So to write the inverse function, it would be f. It looks like it's a negative first, but this is f inverse of x equals x plus 7 over 3. Now look at this. I was multiplying just x by 3. Now I'm dividing everything by 3. And I was subtracting 7. Now I'm adding 7. Those sound like opposite operations. All right, so again, y equals 5x plus 11. X and y switch. X equals 5y plus 11. I'm going to subtract 11 from both sides. And then I'm going to divide by 5. Y equals x minus 11 over 5. F inverse of x is x minus 11 over 5. All right. Take a look at 3 here. Again, y equals x minus 7 over 3. So I'm going to say x equals y minus 7 over 3. I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. So 3x equals y minus 7. I'm going to add 7 to both sides. So y equals 3x plus 7 is the same thing as saying f inverse of x equals 3x plus 7. Y equals a third x plus 2. So x equals a third y plus 2. Subtract 2 from both sides. Multiply by 3, which is 3x minus 6. So f inverse of x is 3x minus 6. Okay, then more together. So we got notes here. Continue with the notes. So y equals the square root of x minus 1. Switch x and y. X equals the square root of y minus 1. If I want to free up y, I got to do the opposite of taking the square root. I got to square both sides, and then I will add 1 to both sides. So x squared plus 1 is y. F inverse of x is x squared plus 1. All right, well, you were taking the square roots of something involving x. Now we're squaring it. I was subtracting 1. Now I'm adding 1. Again, inverses look like they have opposite arithmetic operations when all said and done. So you can kind of check your work. All right, so y equals the square root of x plus 4. I switch x and y, so x equals the square root of y plus 4. I'm going to square both sides. And then I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. X squared minus 4 is y, or f inverse of x is x squared minus 4. All right, take a look at 7. Y equals the square root of x minus 3 plus 5. I'm going to say x equals the square root of y minus 3 plus 5. I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. Minus 5, minus 5. Then I'm going to square both sides. And when I square both sides, don't worry about foiling it. Just leave it as x minus 5, all of it squared. We will write this in proper standard form of a parabola, which you'll see next year in pre-calculus. Then I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So I get y equals x minus 5, all of it squared, plus 3. So f inverse of x equals what I just said. So square roots, they will present a little bit more work for us, but we'll be all right. So y equals the square root of 2x minus 3, all of it minus 4. So now x equals the square root of 2y minus 3 minus 4. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Add 4 here, add 4 there. Okay, I put parentheses there too early. But now I'm going to square both sides, so here come the parentheses. X plus 4, all of it squared, is equal to 2y minus 3. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. Then I'm going to divide by 2. A lot going on here. But f inverse of x is equal to that. Again, you don't need to FOIL the x plus 4. Write it, leave it as such. Here we go on 9. Y equals 2 times the square root of x plus 5. So x equals 2 times the square root of x plus 5. Divide both sides by 2. You want to square this root when it's all by itself. All right, it's x squared over 2 squared. And then I'm going to subtract 5. F inverse of x is x squared over 4 minus 5. Again, these are all ones we would have done in class, unless you've been quarantined. Y equals x squared minus 5. This one's going to be interesting, so we have a parabola. So x equals y squared minus 5. We'll add 5 to both sides. Now remember, if I had y squared was 64, you would give me as an answer plus or minus 8, because negative 8 squared is 64, as is 8 squared. So when I take the square root, which is what I'm going to do, that's the opposite of squaring, I need to have a plus or minus on the outside. So technically, this does not have a true single inverse. Some books will say it has no inverse. It fails the horizontal line test. We're going to write plus or minus the square root of x plus 5 for right now. All right? But a parabola will not have a true single inverse. We can see with the plus or minus. So y equals 2x squared plus 7. That means x equals 2y squared plus 7. Subtract 7 from both sides. Divide both sides by 2. All right. Y squared equals, I'm going to take the square root. Don't forget about plus or minus. F inverse of x equals plus or minus the square root of x minus 7 over 2. Okay, the last page for this first video here, section 6.1 to 6.2. Find the inverse of each relation. So if I give you points again last year in reflecting these across the line y equals x, you found the inverse. So the x's become the y's, the y becomes the x's. So negative 2 or negative 7, 2 is going to become 2, negative 7. 7, 4 is going to become 4, 7. 8, negative 6 is going to become 6, negative 8. Negative 10, negative 6 is negative 6, negative 10. And that is how number 2 will work. And if you graph those in an xy coordinate plane, you'll see they've been reflected across the line y equals x. All right, to finish this page, we're in the hashtag game time section. Find the inverse of each function. Y equals 2x plus 1. So x equals 2y plus 1. Subtract 1 from both sides, divide by 2. Y equals x minus 7 over 2. So x equals y minus 7 over 2. Double both sides. 2x is equal to y minus 7. Add 7 to both sides. There is our inverse. Here's 6. Y equals the square root of x minus 4 minus 7. So x equals the square root of y minus 4 minus 7. I'm going to add 7 to both sides. And then I'm going to square both sides. X plus 7, all of it squared, is y minus 4. Add 4 to both sides. There's my inverse. And then number 7, y equals x plus 3 over 5. Switch x and y. X equals y plus 3 over 5. Multiply both sides by 5. 5x is equal to y plus 3. Subtract 3 from both sides. Lastly, number 9, y is equal to x squared minus 10. So x equals y squared minus 10. You actually graph these next year. Instead of opening up and down, they'll open to the right and to the left. Add 10 to both sides. Then take the square root. F inverse of x is plus or minus the square root of x plus 10. That is pages 1 through 10 for everybody. This is Yak Math Videos signing out.